In the heart of Lagos, inside a crowded courtroom where justice hangs in the balance, a young lawyer stands with his back straight, his eyes steady as steel. His name is Paul. Before him, two accused criminals kneel, their heads bowed in shame. Michael and Michelle, brother and sister, children of privilege, now facing the full weight of the law. But in the gallery, an elderly man sits frozen. His expensive suit cannot hide the trembling in his hands. His name is Mr. Adekunle George, billionaire, philanthropist, respected by thousands. And today, he is terrified, because the man about to destroy his children is the son he once tried to kill. 20 years ago, a secret was buried. A young woman was silenced. A child was rejected before he could even draw his first breath. But secrets have a way of rising from the grave, and today, justice wears the face of the son they threw away. Before we go any further, can I ask you for a small favor? This story took me days to write, record, and edit. Every frame, every emotion, every sound. It costs you nothing to support me, but it truly means everything to me. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not, and comment your location below. I want to know where my amazing viewers are watching from. I read every comment, and I will be giving a shout out in my next video. A big shout out top these my amazing followers: Pat G from Boston, Chantel from USA, Jennifer Williams from Jamaica, and Mamotena from South Africa. Now back to the story. This is a story about power, about cruelty, about a woman who lost everything except her soul, and about the day when the rejected stone became the cornerstone of judgment. This is the story of Lydia. 20 years earlier, Lagos was a city of dreams and shadows. And at the top of that glittering tower of wealth stood Mr. Adekunle George. His mansion in Ikoyi wasn't just a house, it was a statement. 10 bedrooms, marble floors imported from Italy, gates so high that poverty itself couldn't climb over them. Every Sunday, his convoy of black SUVs would roll up to the most prestigious churches, and when he stepped out, cameras flashed like lightning. Mr. Adekunle George donates 50 million naira to Children's Hospital. Billionaire businessman pledges support for youth education. The face of success, the voice of generosity. But behind every great fortune, there is often a great crime. And behind those golden gates, something dark was growing. Mrs. Adekunle George was his perfect match. Beautiful, elegant, cold as ice wrapped in silk. She ran that household like a military commander. The staff knew better than to look her in the eye. One mistake, one moment of slowness, and you would feel the sharp edge of her tongue, or worse. Their children, Michael and Michelle, were raised like royalty. Private schools, designer clothes, cars at 16. Everything they touched turned to gold. Or so it seemed. But when children are given everything and taught nothing, when they see their parents rule through fear and money, what kind of adults do they become? The world saw perfection. God saw something else entirely. Her name was Lydia, 21 years old. From a small village where water was carried on heads and dreams were whispered in the dark, she came to Lagos with one bag, 2 dresses, and a heart full of hope. "Madam, I will work hard. I will not disappoint you." That's what she said the day she started working in the Adekunle mansion. Her job was simple: clean, cook, serve, and stay invisible. Wake up at 5 in the morning. Sleep after everyone else. Eat what was left over. Send money back home to her sick mother and her younger siblings who needed school fees. At night, in the tiny room they gave her beside the kitchen, she would kneel on the concrete floor and pray. "God, I know this is hard. But you see my family. You see my mother's swollen legs. You see my brother, who wants to be a teacher. Let this suffering mean something. Let it change our lives." And God heard her. But not in the way she expected. The other house staff warned her quietly. "Be careful around Oga. When Madam travels, lock your door." But Lydia didn't understand. She was respectful. She did her work. She stayed out of the way. Surely, if she just kept her head down and worked hard, everything would be fine. Surely, if you've ever worked in silence, endured in secret, or carried a burden no one else could see. I hit the like button. Mrs. Adekunle traveled to London, a 3-week shopping trip. The house staff breathed a little easier. Even the walls seemed to relax, but Mr. Adekunle noticed something he had never noticed before. The way Lydia moved quietly through the rooms. The way she sang softly while cleaning. The innocence in her eyes, and in his twisted heart, something dark awakened. Late one night, Lydia was finishing her chores in the kitchen. She heard footsteps. Heavy. Slow. She turned around, and there he was. Mr. Adekunle George. Standing in the doorway, the smell of whiskey on his breath, a look in his eyes that made her blood run cold. "Sir, can I get you something?" He didn't answer. He just closed the door behind him. What happened next? What happened in that kitchen cannot be spoken in full. But let us say this. A powerful man took what was never his to take. A young woman fought with everything she had, but poverty has no strength against power. When it was over, she lay on that cold floor, her uniform torn, her spirit shattered into 1,000 pieces. And as he stood over her, adjusting his silk robe, he said the words that would haunt her forever. "If you tell anyone, I will bury you and your entire family. Do you understand me? I will make sure you never existed." Lydia couldn't speak. She couldn't even cry. She just nodded. Because she knew. He meant every word. For weeks, she moved through that house like a ghost. She stopped singing. She stopped praying. At night, she would stare at the ceiling and wonder if God was even listening. And then, her body began to change. The nausea. The dizziness. The unmistakable signs. She was pregnant with the child of the man who had destroyed her, carrying the seed of her own destruction. 3 months later, Mrs. Adekunle returned from London. Bags full of designer clothes, a smile full of satisfaction. But that smile disappeared the moment she saw Lydia's swelling stomach. The confrontation happened in the main living room. Mrs. Adekunle stood with her arms crossed, her voice like a knife. "Who is responsible for this disgrace in my house?" Lydia's hands trembled. She looked down. She couldn't speak. "I asked you a question, girl." "Who?" Silence. And then Mr. Adekunle walked in. Cool. Calm. Collected. He looked at Lydia with the same eyes that had once undressed her. And he said, "Madam, don't waste your time. This girl has been sleeping with the gateman. I've seen them together. She's trying to trap someone in this house for money." The lie was smooth, practiced, perfect. Mrs. Adekunle's face twisted with rage. Not at her husband. Not at the man who had violated an employee under their roof. No. Her rage was aimed at the victim. "You shameless prostitute. After everything we've done for you. Pack your things. You have 1 hour. Get out of my house. But madam, please, I have nowhere. Get out." They threw her into the street like garbage. No final payment, no transportation money. Just her small bag and the child growing inside her. But that wasn't enough for them. Because Lydia knew the truth. And the truth is the most dangerous weapon in the world. 2 days later, as Lydia was walking to the bus station, a black car came speeding toward her. She jumped out of the way just in time, crashing into a ditch. The car didn't stop. It didn't slow down. It just disappeared. Someone wanted her dead. Someone wanted the secret buried with her. But Lydia survived. Bloodied, bruised, terrified, but alive. If you believe that wickedness never goes unpunished, leave a like on this video. With the last of her money, Lydia boarded a night bus back to her village. 8 hours on broken roads. Every bump felt like punishment. She arrived at dawn, and when her mother saw her swollen belly and empty eyes, she didn't ask questions. She just held her daughter and wept. "My child, what have they done to you?" The village whispered. "That girl went to Lagos and came back with shame." But Lydia didn't care anymore. She had nothing left to lose. 9 months later, on a rainy night, in a small room lit by a single kerosene lamp, Lydia gave birth. No doctor. No hospital. Just her mother and the village midwife. The pain was unbearable. But when she heard that first cry, that strong, angry cry, something inside her came back to life. She held her son against her chest and whispered, "Your father rejected you. The world will try to break you. But I will raise you to be everything he is not. You will be honest. You will be strong. You will stand for those who cannot stand for themselves." She named him Paul, because Paul means small. And the world had tried to make them both feel small. But she would teach him that even the smallest seed can become the mightiest tree. The years that followed were brutal. Lydia sold firewood in the market. She worked on farms for 50 naira a day. She washed clothes for families who had more than her. Her hands became rough, her back bent from carrying loads. But every night, she would sit with Paul and teach him, "My son, never take what does not belong to you. My son, treat women with respect. They are not toys. They are not property. My son, when you have power, use it to protect the weak, not to crush them." Paul grew up watching his mother's strength. He saw how she refused to bow, even when the world tried to break her. And he made a promise to himself, "One day, I will make my mother proud." 20 years passed. 2 families, 2 paths, 2 very different destinies. In Lagos, Michael and Michelle Adekunle grew up surrounded by wealth. They went to the best schools, but they never learned respect. They wore the finest clothes, but their characters were rags. Michael, the golden boy, became a thief and a cultist, university dropout, gang member, feeding off his father's name and money. Michelle, the princess, became a drug dealer and a prostitute. Designer bags filled with cocaine. Hotel rooms paid for by married men. Their parents tried to hide it. They paid off police. They bribed school administrators. They buried every scandal under mountains of cash. But you cannot bribe consequences forever. Meanwhile, in that small village, Paul studied by candlelight. He walked 5 kilometers to school every day. His uniform was washed and rewashed, until it was thin as paper. But his mind was sharp as a blade. He finished secondary school at the top of his class. He won a scholarship to university. He studied law, working 3 jobs to support himself and his mother. While Michael was buying champagne with stolen money, Paul was reading case files until dawn. While Michelle was snorting cocaine in nightclubs, Paul was defending the defenseless in community courts. And on the day he graduated with honors, when they placed that law degree in his hands, he walked straight to his mother's small house and knelt before her. "Mama, you raised me with nothing but love and truth. Today, I am a lawyer, and I will use this power to fight for people like you." Lydia wept. Not from sorrow, but from overwhelming pride. The child they had rejected, the baby they had tried to kill, had become a defender of justice. If you believe that how you raise your children matters more than what you give them, comment. Character below. It happened on a Thursday morning. Police surrounded a nightclub in Victoria Island. Inside, Michael and Michelle Adekunle were caught in a drug raid. Cocaine, heroin, illegal firearms, money laundering. The evidence was overwhelming. Mr. Adekunle's phone rang at 6 a.m. "Sir, your children have been arrested." He didn't panic. He had done this before. He made calls. He contacted his lawyer. He prepared his checkbook. Just another scandal to bury. Just another mess to clean up. The arraignment was set for Monday. High-profile case. Media everywhere. The Adekunle name was finally on trial. Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle sat in the courtroom gallery, dressed in their finest. Confident. Untouchable. Their lawyer had assured them, "This will be handled quietly." But then the prosecutor walked in. Young, tall, confident, sharp suit, eyes that burned with purpose. "Mr. Adekunle glanced at him and froze. There was something familiar about that face. The shape of the jaw, the intensity in the eyes. Something that made his blood run cold. The prosecutor opened his file and spoke clearly. Your Honor, the state will prove beyond reasonable doubt that the accused, Michael Adekunle and Michelle Adekunle, are guilty of drug trafficking, possession of illegal firearms, and conspiracy. We have video evidence, witness testimony, and forensic proof. Justice will be served. His voice echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Mrs. Adekunle leaned toward her husband. Who is that lawyer? He looks familiar. Mr. Adekunle's hands were shaking. He couldn't answer. Because somewhere deep in his guilty conscience, a ghost was rising from the past. That night, Mr. Adekunle couldn't sleep. That prosecutor's face haunted him. He called his private investigator. Find out everything about the prosecutor. Everything. 3 days later, the report arrived. And when Mr. Adekunle read it, his entire world collapsed. Name, Paul Uche. Age, 20. Mother, Lydia Uche. Background. Grew up in poverty. Single mother. Worked his way through school. Graduated top of his class. And there, at the bottom of the page, was a photograph. Lydia. Older now. Worn by time. But unmistakable. The maid he had violated, the woman he had tried to kill, the secret he had buried, and the son he had rejected, was now the one holding his children's fate in his hands. Mr. Adekunle stumbled backward. The room spun. His wife found him sitting on the floor, the papers scattered around him. What is it? What's wrong? He looked up at her with hollow eyes. That prosecutor. He's Lydia's son. Our son. The child we threw away. The silence that followed was heavier than death itself. Mrs. Adekunle's face went pale. No. No. That's impossible. We took care of that. We tried to kill them, but they survived. And now he's going to destroy everything. For the first time in their powerful lives, Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle George felt true fear. Not the fear of losing money. Not the fear of scandal, but the fear of facing the consequences they had run from for 20 years. If you believe that karma is real, and it never forgets, smash that like button. Mr. Adekunle's pride was shattered, but his desperation was infinite. He did something he had never done before. He went looking for Lydia. He drove 8 hours to her village. Him, a billionaire, in his expensive car, on dirt roads, to beg the woman he had destroyed. When he found her small house, he almost didn't recognize her. The bright-eyed girl he had violated was now a woman with gray streaking through her hair. But her eyes were still clear. Still strong. Still unbroken. He fell to his knees in the dust. Lydia. Please. I'm begging you. I know what I did. I know I don't deserve mercy. But please, talk to your son. Don't let him destroy my children. Lydia looked down at him. This man who had once had all the power. This man who had taken everything from her. Now kneeling in the dirt like a beggar. She didn't spit on him. She didn't curse him. She simply said, "You destroyed me to protect your image. Now your image is destroying itself. That is not my doing. That is God's doing. Please, I'll give you money. I'll build you a house. I don't want your money. I never did. I wanted dignity. I wanted justice. I wanted my son to know his father. But you chose fear. You chose violence. And now you must face what you have sown." Mrs. Adekunle was in the car, too proud to step out. But through the window, she could see her husband weeping in the dust. The great Mr. Adekunle George, brought to his knees by the maid he had once owned. They left that village with nothing but shame. But they didn't give up. They went to Paul. Paul was in his small office, reviewing case files, when his secretary knocked. "Sir, Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle are here to see you." He looked up slowly. "Let them in." They walked in like condemned prisoners. no bodyguards, no lawyers, just two broken parents. Mr. Adekunle spoke first. Paul. Son. Don't call me that. The words cut like glass. Please. We know what we did was unforgivable. But Michael and Michelle. They're our children. They made mistakes. But they don't deserve to rot in prison. Please, show mercy. Paul leaned back in his chair. His face was calm. But his eyes burned with 20 years of pain. You want me to show mercy? The way you showed mercy to my mother when she begged you for help? The way you showed mercy when you tried to kill us? Mrs. Adekunle finally spoke, her voice cracking. We were wrong. We were wicked. But please, don't punish our children for our sins. Paul stood up and walked to the window. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, he turned around. I will make you a deal. One condition. They leaned forward desperately. Confess. Publicly. Tell the world what you did to my mother. Tell them how you violated her. How you threatened her. How you tried to kill her. Tell them how you raised your children with money but no morals while my mother raised me with nothing but truth. Stand before the cameras and confess everything. The room went silent. Mr. Adekunle's face went white. You want me to destroy everything I've built? You want to save your children? Then pay the price. Mrs. Adekunle gasped. Do you know what that will do to us? Our businesses, our reputation, everything will collapse. Quote, Paul's voice was ice. And do you know what you did to my mother? Her dignity, her future, her life, everything collapsed. But she survived. The question is, will you? He walked to the door and opened it. You have 48 hours to decide. Confession or prison for your children. Choose. If you believe that true justice requires truth. Comment. Confesses below. 2 days later, a press conference was called. Every major news outlet in Lagos was there. Cameras. Reporters. Flashing lights. Mr. and Mrs. Adekunle George stood at the podium. For the first time in their lives, they looked small. Mr. Adekunle cleared his throat. His voice shook. 20 years ago, I committed a crime. I violated my housemaid, Lydia Uche. She became pregnant. My wife and I, we threw her out. We tried to have her killed. We denied the child. We buried the truth to protect our image. The room exploded. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions. Mrs. Adekunle was crying, her makeup running down her face. We raised our own children with wealth but no character. And they became criminals. But the son we rejected, he became a lawyer, a defender of justice, and today, he is prosecuting our children. This is our confession. This is our shame. The broadcast went viral within hours. The Adekunle empire crumbled overnight. Business partners withdrew. Church communities disowned them. Friends disappeared. But Michael and Michelle's case? It proceeded. Paul did not drop the charges. Justice was served. They were sentenced to 15 years in prison. No special treatment, no immunity. Because Paul understood something his biological father never did. Real love requires accountability. And real justice requires truth. Months later, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Paul visited his mother in the new house he had built for her. Not in the village, but not in Lagos either. Somewhere peaceful. Somewhere she could finally rest. They sat on the veranda, drinking tea, watching the sunset. Mama, do you think I was too hard on them? Lydia was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. That same gentle smile she had carried through all those years of suffering. My son, you gave them something I could never give them. What's that? The chance to be free. They lived in lies for 20 years. Now, the truth has set them free. Whether they accept that freedom or not, that is their choice. Paul nodded. He understood. Justice is not revenge. Justice is restoration. And sometimes, the only way to restore what is broken is to break what is false. The rejected child became the cornerstone. The maid they destroyed became the mother of their judge. And the empire built on secrets crumbled under the weight of truth. This is the law of life. What you sow, you will reap. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but the harvest always comes, and when it does, there is no amount of money, no amount of power that can stop it. So let me ask you something. If you were Lydia, if someone had destroyed you, threatened you, tried to kill you, and then came back 20 years later begging for mercy, what would you do? Would you forgive? Or would you demand justice? There's no right answer, but there is a choice. And that choice reveals who we truly are. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that character is more important than wealth, then do 3 things for me. 1. Hit that like button. Let's show the world that stories of truth and justice still matter. 2. Subscribe to this channel, because we're going to keep bringing you stories that shake your soul and challenge your mind. And 3. Comment below. Tell me, what would you have done if you were in Lydia's shoes? I'll be reading every single comment. Remember, the seeds you plant today will become the trees your children climb tomorrow. Make sure you're planting the right seeds. Until the next story. Stay strong, stay true, and never forget, the truth always rises, always. And watch out for part 2, because this story isn't over yet.